Okay, item number 2 under work sessions, 16 Anderson Street, which is the,
Do we have to make a motion to change the aspect of the project? And I know there are things already that need to be done in that building that aren't done, like the sprinklers, the exhaust system for the fire truck, some stuff down in the basement. So do we need a motion to do all that? We need to rehire the architect to...
Well, the
redo
architect,
drawings?
if you're set on that, the next step would be getting the architect's contract to review, the council to approve, the money to be taken out of the collective grant, and then we would go forward. You can't do that tonight, you would have to, but I could at least proceed with getting the architect's contract and get us going on the right page.
Well, I think if we're in agreement that we want to finish this project that's been going for 12 years, and we absolutely need storage space for this town, we don't have any. We don't need a meeting room any longer, we're building one. If we want to go forward, then I think we need, I don't know if we really did a nose count last time, or if we, I don't think we did a motion, I don't think we did any of that.
I'd just like to bring up another thing that I did speak not at opening baseball day with the chief, Brian, and Carl Memley, who's on the fire hose. And I asked them, what is the utilization of that property? And the only reason I bring it up is because I don't have any, I don't think anyone has any quarrel with most of what you're saying. The question really became, and as we were talking, is whether or not they needed that front area for an active fire engine in light of what is in the back, and if they were going to essentially require a fire truck down here, which I think well, I'll let them figure out their job, but in essence, that they're thinking, they said they would like to think about is moving one of the antique trucks in there, and that may obviate the need for the exhaust. Please understand, I don't understand a whole lot of all
Well,
this.
yeah, I was just going with what they were telling me as far as the exhaust for the fire truck, so.
And so the issue that I would suggest is that, let's try to begin to move on this, but let's identify pieces that no matter what they ultimately decide to do with the 16 Anderson Firehouse, would contemplate A, using it, and B, not using it. So anything like, for instance, the exhaust, let's sort of hold that back, but go ahead on, no matter what you do, you need sprinklers.
Yeah, it needs to be sprinkled, no doubt.
And I guess shoring up and so forth. So what I would just suggest in terms of my conversations, and obviously council can have any conversations they want with the fire department, but I think there are certain common core things that we can move ahead on. And I would just request that we consider whether or not to add the exhaust, because that may be more of a sort of a museum type vehicle as opposed to a running vehicle where you warm it up and so on and so forth. And so that is, and I share your view that let's get going, because it's time to get going. So let's get going on the things that I think no matter what happens over there occurs. So what I would suggest is that if the council would agree with that, is that in their resolution, they said, let's look at some common elements of no matter what is going to occur, that we can move head on that. And I don't know what we do with the architect, but in essence, I think we need to get the architect back on board, because he or she would have valuable knowledge as to what is common and what isn't. So I would encourage us to move ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead. I would encourage us to move ahead, but
Yeah, I
I
think we should
recognize
spend
you.
a few minutes before we call the architect. I can work with Dan just to find what the scope's going to be.
Pardon me?
I think we should spend a few minutes, I can do that with Dan, and just to find what the scope is before we call the architect back in. And that would be.
Not, so we would just authorize, start discussions,
Yeah, I mean,
and
that's,
staff moves
the
forward.
basement to me
Okay.
is the most critical, the water infiltration, how we get rid of that. I don't know if the architect fully aware of what
Okay.
some of the problems are.
And that would be exactly what we want to move ahead, because water in anybody's basement's not a good thing. Okay?
So if we agree on that, and we...
Can we do a motion or no?
Then we hold off on the exhaust system, that we could go ahead and spec out some of that stuff. So
Right,
we can put it up to bid.
stabilize the structure that we have.
Okay, we don't have to have the architect for that. I understand these items are already in the paperwork that need to be done for the firehouse, Dan?
Yes.
They already there?
I guess we'll backtrack and then,
Yeah. What I-
backtrack a little bit and then go forward. I think the scope has been defined, and the exhaust system, the borough has capital money that could be to our advantage in terms of taking it out, not grant money. And of course, we don't know also what the bids are gonna come in, what they may cover. So we're gonna have to backtrack a little bit and then get our heads together and then work forward.
Let me suggest to the council that we authorize Dan and Stan, I never thought about that, Dan and Stan, to move forward, look at the scope, appreciate the intent of what we're trying to do is address common things now, which may not include everything, and to proceed. And I think on that basis, we can act tonight, and then authorize them to go do that, and then as they may or may not need additional authorizations or resolutions, we can do those in the future. But I agree with you, Paul, let's get started. I mean, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
So I have a motion to essentially authorize the administrator and the engineer to move ahead on all common aspects of the grant for the 16 Anderson Street.
Mayor, could I just add, with the understanding that it is to be a storage area, at least the first floor, maybe not. Is that just so that we know
Well,
that?
Why is that essential?
Because then we know with all the authorization with the architect that we're not talking about a future elevator or bathrooms, that's all.
But I guess what I was trying to do is to get us to the point that you guys can go ahead with that, because if the fire department comes in and they say that, look, we don't need the building at all, that's one thing. If they come in and we absolutely need the building, that's a second thing. And I'm not really individually, I don't know if this council, and I leave it to you guys, is really in a position to essentially say yes or no on that particular piece. That's why I think it's best to understand where we're at, and for you guys to essentially collaborate outside of this meeting and then decide. And that's why we go back to the original resolution and not tie anybody's hands. And say, hey, look at that. By the time you guys are all gonna get going, we're gonna be in June anyway.
Oh, yeah.
All right? And so the fire department will have had 3 months to essentially have their views come back to us. And so let's get started. And again, what I said is, let's do the common pieces, and whether or not the storage is an issue is for you guys to talk about, okay?
I agree, and the storage area, if we decide on that eventually, is the simplest of all areas.
Right.
You don't have to put in stairs, you don't have to put in bathrooms, you don't have to put in elevators, and it probably would be knocked together fairly quickly, and then you're finished with the project.
Okay, so that's Councilman Giraldi's motion.
I'll second.
That was it. Yeah.
All right. The second by Council President Kara. Any further discussion? Okay, roll.
Councilman Bray?
Yes.
Council President Kara?
Yes.
Councilwoman Danila?
Yes.
Councilman Fooey?
Yes.
Councilman Giroux?
Yes.